Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, November 1st, and this is your end of day market recap. So let's go over some of these big movers for the day. Before we do that, risk disclaimer in front of you. You could read through this on your own time, but everything that we're going through in this video is for education purposes only. And if the screen looks a little bit blurry, it's just because YouTube takes a little while to render the high definition version of the video. So yes. Before we go through the moves of the day, themes of the day, I think that first day of the trading month, you typically see some new money being put to work. So first of the month flows, very typical. Very interesting to see where they went today. It looked like basically just a lot of money going into the small caps today. So we'll see that wash out in ETF fund flows in the next couple days, just for a little bit of evidence of that. But you could see the massive outperformance today for the small caps, up 2.6% for the day, and then everything else was kind of was didn't really have much momentum to it, outside of those small caps, right? We'll definitely talk about some of the sectors and the areas, but SPY was up, actually gave back some gains from where it was pre-market. The Nasdaq was red for a decent portion of the day, and there's another MOC buy imbalance for the day, which I think was about like at 1.3 billion dollars, but you had the Qs kind of push into green there at the end of the day. So nice to see that, and nice to see another strong close. Very different than what we saw like about a month ago in September when all the MOCs, right, market on close orders were for sale. This has been the last couple of weeks have just been straight, buying almost every single day. So, impressive how much they've been putting to work, the institutions, over the last couple of weeks. Also, there's a stat out, I believe, by Ryan Dietrich that this is the strongest week of the year started a couple of days ago, and I think we've got 2 more days. I don't have his tweet up in front of me, but I did see that that's what he puts out. He's a great follow for some of those seasonal patterns that you see in the market. So TLT was down today, right? But really, just didn't have much of an effect on what institutions were doing for the day. They were out there buying micro caps, small caps, and then mid caps too, which were up 2% for the day too. Mid caps never get any attention, but I think the chart looks better in mid caps. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. So speaking of which, let's go through a couple of these charts. Well, S&P, right? The one observance that I'll make really quick here in the S&P is that we are now right around that overbought territory. It's a 69 RSI. It was a 70 earlier in the day, but I guess things cooled a little bit, from where we were in the beginning. Like I said, from where we were in the beginning of the day, but we're right around overbought territory. We did bounce off of the top of value for the week, right? So a good level to watch, which we always talk about pre-market in the TTG trading room, as well as in the pre-market commentary live room that we do. We talked about 4,580, call it 4,585, right? As long as that holds, the very short-term trend is up. Obviously, we know the longer-term trend is higher too, but the 1-hour chart gives us some really good hints as well as some levels to watch. Qs, or we could look at we'll look at Qs. They didn't get that low, but as far as touching the top of value, but strong. And you could see that this is also to the point of a 70 RSI, right? So we are now officially using the RSI study, which is on the bottom of your screen. If you're not familiar with the RSI, here it is on the bottom of your screen, and you could kind of look to see every time that this index or the S&P has gotten overbought, and you can make your own judgment. I'm not going to draw that conclusion for you, but you could see, when this gets overbought. Sometimes, I use this in conjunction, obviously, with price and trend, just to kind of help myself out in terms of making, forming a conclusion and an opinion. But we have been moving really nicely for the last couple of weeks, and then finally with the small caps. right? I'm holding back some analysis here because I want people to kind of formulate their own opinions rather than me give you what I'm thinking exactly. But I will get to a little bit of that in the conclusion of this video. But yeah, there's a really nice move in the small caps, and we haven't really seen that. We've seen a couple times where we've gotten to the top of the range and things look pretty good and we turn back. But this looks like it could have some legs to it. I think it does anyway. So there's a nice green bar to it. It just has to get through. It's not at all-time highs. It's pretty close to breaking through that March high. Again, if you want to look at the mid caps, oops, right there's your nice breakout. So again, looks really nice to me, and you had this nice little check back last week to the top of value, closed on the absolute lows, but then we kind of regrouped. And this looks great to me, right? I love the look of that chart. I love how it bounced off the rising 200-day moving average, and note the volume today in the mid cap. So really nice. We'll just look at one more index chart. Again, I like to look at bonds because I think bonds dictate a lot of this. A lot of right now you could say that they're consolidating around the 200-day moving average. So what do we have this week in terms of events? Right, and I talked about. I think a lot of today was just first of the month flows, which sometimes continues a little bit, right? And we talked about how this is a very strong time of the year, especially this particular week. But we've got a huge week this week, right? We've got 33% of the S&P is reporting this week in terms of numbers of companies reporting, not the market cap, but there's 33% of the S&P in companies that are reporting this week. So it's another huge week of earnings. And then we've got FOMC on Wednesday. So I always view the Fed days as tricky, right? You have to think about not only what you're going to do or what your friend is going to do, but what the institutions are going to do, right? Are they going to trim some of their plays? It kind of felt like a little bit like that today. It felt like maybe people were closing some of their short positions, right? Some names, that probably the shorts have been profitable on. It felt like some short covering, like not out of like, oh my God, I got to cover my shorts. Maybe there's a little bit of that because maybe they don't want to hold those short positions into the Fed meeting. Similarly, it felt like a lot of the really strong areas of the market had some profit taking in them too. There's a lot of if we go further down this list, and I'm going to talk about the outperformers, but the software names which have been super strong, many of them were down on the day. So again, it felt like some profit taking going on there, and it felt like some rotation going into some of those under-owned areas of the market too. So a lot of moving parts today, right? And when we look at the outperformers, Chinese internets were up 5% for the day, right? We talked about, I think, one day last week. We'll kind of start here just because it was the best performing group, but this got back to this trend line and bounced pretty decently, right? I didn't really like how this broke back inside value, right? It had a nice move off the lows, and then moved back, but it found this trend line here as well as the bottom of value support. We've got obviously new value areas for the month, right? On any chart, this is the value area for November, but you got a nice bounce here. So, you gotta like some of these things, which I'm going to talk about. I think you take it for what it is, and like take the bounce and sell into it a bit, and put that money in your pocket for some of these underperforming areas of the market. Biotech, really nice. We talked about this last week, right? We hit this trade very nicely, right? This is a trade that we talked about. We saw some big option flow on the tape. That's kind of how I use option flow, is if it really meshes with my idea and something that I was already looking for, often I'll kind of take the trade. So I followed along with a big block of, they were January calls, I believe. Was it January? Yeah, I have January calls on. And I think that's that was on the tape as well. All right, but you got a nice move here, up 3.8%. So again, I'm even playing. I'm 90% a trend trader. What I trade, but every once in a while, if I think that we're going to see some areas of the market that are underperformers, rally a little bit, I'll play in that sandbox a little bit, right? Because it's tough, right? If you've got one methodology where you're basically playing a lot of relative strength, sometimes that is not going to be the best performing names from time to time. This day was one of those days, from my standpoint, anyway. But you put on a couple of these trades and you kind of adapt a little bit to the system for the short term and just kind of realize that they're trades, right? This is what we talked about last week, right? The seasonality, right? So again, it's something even though, like I said, biotech has not been a strong area of the market this year, you got to respect that November is one of the best months in terms of seasonality, right, for the XBI and the biotech ETF. So that's working, and I'm selling into that strength, right? Even though there could be some more move, but I think I'll probably be out of this trade around 130. Maybe keep the last piece on for maybe a move up to the 200-day moving average. So it's very important, as I'm going to go through a bunch of other charts in just a second, but this is something that I talk about all the time, is making sure that you're planning out your trade. I think a lot of these moves that we're seeing, I don't know if they're going to reverse and go higher. My view, names that are in downtrends or below the 200-day moving average, just like this biotech ETF is, they can bounce, but it's very, very difficult to see names that get out of their downtrend. So bouncing is fine in downtrends, and sometimes you could try that with a counter trend trade, such as the one that I have on for this. But I don't overstay my welcome in those trades because I think it's much harder for the trend to reverse. And we always watch for trends to reverse, right? And for a name to get out of the base. But for now, this is just bouncing from, a pretty low level, and I would sell it into resistance. And that's my motive in that. All right, so that's biotech, which was one of the big areas. Then just a mix of other areas, some of which small caps, like regional banks, were up 3.3% for the day, right? Your clean energy stocks, right? This was one of my big questions and relationships that I was looking at for today, because, you do have this climate meeting, and sometimes these meetings are buy the rumor, sell the event, right, for that. But this was super strong, up 4.3%. Just like that biotech chart that I just showed you, there was a version point of control, right, an area where a lot of buyers and sellers previously met up from this volume profile. And there's the 200-day moving average. So for now, clean energy is trying to get over the hump of the 200-day moving average. Now, I am long this, right? We got long the clean energy ETF in the beginning of last week. I got long the solar ETF 2 weeks ago in the TTG trend portfolio, right? Both of those trades are working really well, but I might be trimming a little bit of that into strength this week. We're going to do a rebalance of the TTG trend portfolio, which holds a little bit more than 40 names right now. So we're due for a rebalance. I usually rebalance that either once a week or once every 2 weeks, and we've been doing that for the last couple weeks, once once a week. All right, so really nice performance for that. We kind of give myself a little pat on the back as a team, because we have a team that kind of reviews these changes. We really crushed it with this move in clean energy over the last couple weeks. So very, very pleased with that. And then next theme, the travel names were strong today too. So I want to go over a couple of those travel names. And I think it's really difficult because you've got some of these names reporting earnings this week. So I'll go to the first name, which I've tried to trade a couple times, and it's been a frustrating name over the last couple months. But I would be watching this Airbnb name, and it would line up pretty decently for a swing trade, but you're going to have to contend with earnings in a couple days. So it could start to move, but then it could do something differently on earnings. So I might have an earnings trade specifically because the chart is looking. I would rather play names that are in a consolidation area that are leaning the right way than be pressing a name that has gone up a lot. Personally, for an earnings trade. But you could see this is so far how they've reported. They've actually rallied on the 3 quarters that they've only 3 quarters that they've reported, but not a lot of history off of that to go off of. The casinos too, right? Again, talk about a name in a downtrend, Las Vegas Sands. However, as you, like I said, it's a little bit different versus trading, being a trend trader when you look at a chart like this. Now, the good thing is that you got a lot of distance to maybe where this could bounce to, but it's above the 50-day moving average and it's above value. So you could, as long as you're setting a stop very close by, right, you could kind of get over that hesitation if you're a trend trader about a name that's really beaten up. Right. Again, most of what I talk about is, and my system is trend trading and following strong names like an AMD today, right, which is just continuing to power higher, right? This to me is gives you a lot more higher odds, higher probability of making money, just following the trend methodically, buying it when it hits the 50-day moving average or 20-day moving average, right? This is where you make a lot of money. If you can stay and stick with the trade, which is what I've been trying to do in INMD, versus a name that's just doing this over months and months, right? This is much, much harder, in my opinion. All right. I have to mention Tesla too, right? This is one of the most impressive moves that I've seen in such a short amount of time. Right? I had some people asking me last week, "Oh, is this something to short?" What do you think? If I would have given somebody that response last week when it was trading at $1,000, would they be upset at me or would they be right? So I literally got a question. I don't think every day last week, but a couple days about shorting Tesla. You would have gotten crushed, right? So sticking with the trend, right? And if you're not familiar with this concept, read Trend Trading by Michael Covell, right? But this could have potentially made people's years in the last week, right? By following the trend and following something like this, right? Now, again, it doesn't mean you're following the trend that you're not going to be disciplined. Of course, you have to be disciplined, but just some phenomenal moves in some of the relative strength names. So yes, we could continue to see some profit taking in some of these performers. Not all of them, as I'm showing Tesla and INMD, two of the stronger names this year. But you may see more profit taking along the way in some other areas of the market. Just something to keep to be aware of. A few other names that I wanted to talk about. So we talked a little bit about the travel names. A couple nice charts, and I will show the trade blotter. But SE had a nice bounce day today. It didn't close very well, or didn't look very good on Friday. I think part of it was because emerging markets were down a bit on Friday with the stronger dollar. But really nice move today, up 3%. AMD made a nice move today after a downgrade. This is what you want to see when a name gets downgrade, is buyers come in and take advantage of the dip. They did that today in AMD, right? Talking about two of the semi names that have that metaverse theme, graphic cards, graphic chips, NVIDIA and AMD certainly are in that space. Nice to see this name, right? This is Silvergate. This is a nice cup and handle type pattern that you got going on here. Out to new highs, hit a high of 194, but closed out 190, up 20%. Right? I know a lot of people were watching SoFi too, which isn't really a name for me because it's just too sideways. But congratulations if you're in it, up 12%. Nothing to sneeze at, up $2.50 today. So very, very nice. I actually tried. I didn't want to chase some of these names that just took off like a rocket. I got into some of this Lovesac company, right? And I'm targeting around $85 in this new trade. Right. So I like the little check back to the top of value last week. A little bit late on this one, but it's tough. There's been so many really good movers recently. So we talked about. I think that's probably pretty much it in terms of charts. There's a whole bunch of other names too to go through, but I'll kind of leave it here. And I think for this week, you're going to see a lot of whippy moves. On Wednesday, we have a Fed meeting, right? So think about now, right? And we talked about this in the trading room here's the trade blotter today. I certainly did not have all perfect trades. I unwound some trades today, some profitable trades today. reduce some of those names. BX wasn't working really well. I was just afraid that this has been a really strong name this year. I just thought that maybe some of these winners get sold. I tried a couple trades for a day trade, but backed out of a couple of them. Upstart I got rid of, which I think Upstart finished fine, by the way, so I could have stayed in this trade. But it's a question of how much risk I want to carry into the Fed meeting, right? With the indices overbought here, I would be cognizant that you've got the Fed speaking, right? And they're providing the wind to the market's back right now, right? So will that change right away? No, I don't think so. Right? They're going to announce tapering. They're probably going to bring up the conversation of when they're going to be raising interest rates next year. But it could be a little bit of a change in tone, a little bit, or a reason to take some profits into the meeting. Remember, the institutions drive the market. I know in the small caps too, the retail traders are driving some of that market too. There's no doubt, right? Message boards, you get a whole bunch of people buying one name that doesn't trade that much, and you could drive it and you can manipulate it. But for the most part, it's the institutions that are driving the overall market. And being that we're at a 70 RSI in S&P and in Qs, right? It could be an excuse to take some money off the table. So keep that in the back of your mind. As I said in the weekend member video, do I sell everything going into a Fed meeting? No, but I get myself in a comfortable place where I can run a scenario analysis, like what happens if the market goes down 1% or 2%? What does that do to my portfolio? Am I going to be devastated? So I think it's important. I try to bring up these points in these videos because you look at Twitter. And there's a lot of overconfidence. I think that's my judgment, and I could be wrong, but I see a lot of overconfident traders on Twitter. Now, I hope it works out, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but this market's about staying humble, right? The more confidence is good in trading, right? You need to develop confidence and have confidence in what you're doing. But overconfidence is a no-no. So be careful of following people who are just thinking that the market's going to move one way. I've been doing this long enough where I've seen all types of corrections, but I still see things that surprise me, like we saw, like that big move that we saw last year, the big move down, right? And again, I'm not saying any of that is going to happen. I'm just saying you have to be prepared, and you have to have a realistic, which is a word that I use a lot, outlook, in terms of where the market is now. Do I think that we could have some type of a pullback in the next couple months before the market? Everybody seems to have adopted the view that the market is going to just keep on charging higher for the rest of the year. That could happen, but that's not 100% certain. And I think that you just have to be realistic about that. I'll leave the video here for the night. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Very nice day. I didn't crush every single trade. Like I said, I had to take a couple trades off today. Like 1 or 2 day trades didn't work too. But overall, really nice way to start the month. Have a great night, everybody.